see you guys in the dark.
So the story takes place a few years ago. I grew up in a trailer park in an extremely low-income part of California's Central Valley. The park itself was originally established as a retirement community for seniors, and my grandmother had bought a nice double-wide upon her retirement. But as the years went by, the age and retirement requirement was dropped, and the park filled in with all sorts of unsavory types. My mom and I moved in with my grandmother after she was diagnosed with cancer in 2001. And after she died, which was on September 11th of 2001, we decided to stay in the trailer and try to fix it up, and then sell it. Life got in the way. Plans fell by the wayside, and 9 years later, we were still living there. Our neighbors were interesting. The trailer to the right of ours shuffled through a bunch of different renters in the 10 years that we lived there, including a guy who was arrested for throwing his girlfriend through one of the windows, and another couple of dudes who never lived there, but just used it to grow marijuana. But the people to our left were really nice. They were a pretty typical trailer park couple, Cindy and Nerl. She was this tiny lady with tattooed eyeliner and a Betty Boop tramp stamp who collected Precious Moments figures, and would often walk around with her fake teeth out. And he was a Vietnam vet, Berkeley grad, and former engineer who, in his retirement, had decided to just settle down, drink beer, and work on his motorcycles. Nerl was a really good guy who was pretty protective of my mom and myself, so we didn't feel like we were in much danger for most of the time that we lived there. In the fall of 2009, however, things started to get weird. Nerl joined an outlaw motorcycle gang that had roots in drug trafficking. According to Cindy, he just wanted to ride with them, but he started getting sucked into the subculture, and it was scary. The park that we lived in was full fenced in and gated. I used to go out running in the early morning or evening before it got too hot. One loop around the full park was a mile, and I'd do that 3 or 4 times. You had to carry a big stick or pepper spray in case someone's dog got loose, but somehow you got used to these kind of things. I'd been doing this since I was 14, and had never run into anything weird or scary aside from the aforementioned dogs. But around the time of his induction into the club, I started seeing strange people on bikes stationed in various parts of the park, not doing anything, just sitting there. So one evening in late May, I'm out on my regular run, headphones on, pepper spray, which I wasn't licensed to use, but I never had to use it on anything but a pit bull. Totally in the zone. Near the end of the 4th loop, I turn the corner to head down my street, and I see 3 guys on bikes just sitting in the middle of the street, just staring. I know what Nerl's bike looks like, and none of those were his. So I have just kept going down the street. The smart thing to do is take the damn detour, because these guys look pretty sketchy to me. But I'm tired, having run 4 miles in 90-degree heat, and taking the detour would mean going past a house belonging to this old guy who liked to hoot and holler at me whenever I would go past. Being a moron, I kept jogging along the street, obviously heading towards the fucking Black Hat Brigade like absolutely nothing here is out of the ordinary. What those 3 scary guys on bikes parked in the middle of the street are doing, I have no clue. It seems to happen here every day, so I just play it cool. When I get close, one of them revs their bike. You know, the vroom vroom noise. I know nothing about the current terminology. Another shouts, "Hey!" I have my headphones in and pretend that I can't hear them, so I give a little wave and just keep going. Big mistake, because as soon as the dude sees that I'm not going to stop for him, he peels out and turns around, starts to cruise after me down the street. Now I'm terrified. I'm maybe 40 feet from my house, and the adrenaline is kicking in. I drop the pepper spray, which is an idiot move, and start running faster than I have ever run before. It's like a Roadrunner cartoon in real life. My headphones come out of my ears and are dragging on the ground when I don't even notice, because the dude is gaining on me. Well, duh, he's on a motorcycle, of course. I fly down the street, into my yard, up the stairs, and into my house, locking and bolting the door behind me, and go running into my mom's room to tell her what's going on. She tells me to get down on the floor and not look out my windows. Just as she does, we hear this guy banging on our back door. not saying anything, just banging. For at least 20 minutes. Our back door was kind of flimsy, and if you pulled on it the right way, you could tug it open even when it was locked. So we just sat in the bathroom in the very back of the trailer, praying that he wouldn't start pulling. My mom calls the cops. The cops take their sweet time to show up, as per usual in our neighborhood, and by the time they arrive, the bikers are long gone. We gave a statement, but that was pretty much the end of it, until 2 days later, when Cindy comes over, sobbing about how she just got a call that Nerl was stabbed in a fight with a rival biker gang at a tattoo parlor a few blocks away. There is a news article about it. I don't know exactly what these guys were doing in our neighborhood that day. Reckon, maybe, or what they thought flagging down his teenage neighbor would accomplish. But those cracks and indentations from the dude's giant fist in our back door scared the shit out of me every time that I saw them. So for a few weeks after that, we had to deal with seeing random guys on bikes stationed around the neighborhood. Cindy said they were Nerl's guys and taking care of things. I didn't go out running alone again for as long as I lived there. Oh, and the cherry on top of this whole shit Twinkie pie, about a year later, we found out that a trailer just up the street from ours was being used as a meth lab. That was when we finally noped the fuck out and moved to the East Coast. See ya never ever again, trailer park. When I was 14, I used to hang out with my friend Tony, who lived in a trailer park. We used to spend time around a couple of cute girls, one of which I was interested in. She was 13. For the sake of not divulging names, I will call them Carrie, the one that I liked, and Hope. One day I went to see if Carrie wanted to hang out, and she wasn't at home, so Tony and I mosey over to Hope's house, and I knock on the door. A balding man in his late 40s to 50s opens up the door after a few minutes and points a .45 at my head. He said something to the effect of, "If you ever come back here again, I'll shoot you." I noped the hell out of there and decided that I didn't like the guy, or knocking on his door much. Later that week, I visited my dad, who worked the metal ward at the Salem Penitentiary in Oregon, U.S., the one where One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was filmed. Somehow, the conversation over dinner drew me to casually mention my "some people are crazy" encounter, to which my dad was not thrilled to hear about. My dad asked me for the man's phone number, which I had because it was also Hope's number, and called Rick, the old gunslinging creepazoid. Immediately, he offered the man a place in his facility, with the mention of the fact that he is allowed to fill out mandatory referral forms, which upon submission require action by the recipient to evaluate their mental health. Rick quickly apologized and guaranteed the incident would not be repeated. 2 or 3 days later, on a Saturday around 8 p.m., I got a call during dinner at my mom's house, where I lived. It was Rick. He apologized to me profusely and wanted to make it up to me. He suggested that I would come over and play a game of pool with him. Being a headstrong, cocky, and far from naive child, there was some cursing, laughing, and a big old nope. Sometime later, around the period of a few weeks or a month, Rick made the front page. He had been sexually soliciting children, which I learned from other sources included Carrie and Hope, his own daughter, to an older man, a female friend who was close to both girls, but overweight and apparently never targeted. Mentioned to me that Rick had a giant container of vitamin E lotion and no pool table. Pool with an over-aggressive, gun-happy creepazoid on a Saturday evening? Yeah. If we could, let's just not meet. That would really be great. My parents have basically been divorced all my life, so every other weekend I would go visit my dad. He, my stepmom, and 2 of my stepsisters lived in a trailer park, and that's where I would go for the weekend. A lot of the people in the park are pretty normal, and there are a lot of old people that live there, to be honest. But there are some fucking weirdos, I'll tell you that much. Anyways, I was probably around 7 years old at the time, and one of my stepsisters was around 9. We lived next door to a family, and usually hung out with the daughter in the family, Shiloh. The 3 of us would stay out at night until 2 a.m. God knows why our parents let us do that in a sketchy neighborhood. And we would also hang out at Shiloh's house a lot. Her dad was always home, and he would play with us, watch TV with us, things like that. Never thought he was one of the creepy motherfuckers of the neighborhood. There is, and was, a clear shot view from Shiloh's living room through our kitchen window, and into my stepsister's room. Now my stepsister had a habit of leaving doors open when she would go to the bathroom, change, whatnot. You can see where this is going. One day the two of us were outside playing on the front lawn when Shiloh's dad came walking up to us. I clearly remember him standing near us and watching, and we were looking up at him. He directly looked at my stepsister, smiling, and said, "Hey, Alex, I watched you change through your kitchen window last night." As young kids would do, we flipped out. I didn't understand it at the time. I was just reacting to Alex's freak out. Alex ran inside crying, told our parents, and they called the cops. I don't know what happened after that exactly. Shiloh and her brother Jimmy moved to Florida to live with their grandparents, and their dad was arrested. Not exactly sure what for. Maybe the cops found some child pornography or something when they went to his house. After them, another family moved in, and that dad was arrested too. Not sure why. We weren't allowed to talk to any more neighbors. Finally, they just took the damn cursed trailer out for good, and the lot is still empty next to our house. All in all, Shiloh and Jimmy's dad, I really hope that I never meet you again. My sister is 22 years old, married, and has a very small child. They live in a beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, but the only downside is there's a trailer park basically in their front yard. She and her husband had lived in their home about a year when the incident occurred. Kelsey, my sister, is absolutely gorgeous. Blonde hair, tall, thin, and all around pleasant. She has had stalker problems in the past, but this one experience beats them all. She had just put the baby down for a nap and needed to get some work done in the yard. So she grabbed the baby monitor, locked the house, and proceeded to the yard to do some weeding. She is a very, very paranoid person, so she's always aware of her surroundings. As she was tending her garden, she noticed something in the corner of her eye. There was a man about 200 feet away, just standing in the middle of the trailer park, staring right at her. She quickly turned back to her duties and brushed it off. However, she did try to keep him in her peripherals. After a few minutes, she got a chilling feeling that he moved closer. As she suspected, he was now at the stop sign, which was 100 to 120 feet away from her. She described him as standing in the normal, anatomical stance. Feet shoulder apart, palms facing forward, or facing her, with a blank stare. Kelsey, pretending not to see him, carried on, but this time moved to the garbage bins to dispose of the weeds. As she heads towards the bin, she caught him moving closer to her. They both made eye contact, so she was 100% sure that he saw her, and she wouldn't be able to play this one off. At this point, she's 80 feet away from him, and it's a 15-foot sprint to the house. Also realizing that she has to unlock the door as well, which will give him time to catch up to her. She decides to bolt for the door. The moment she begins to run, he sprints towards her. She made sure that she had her key ready. She made her mad dash to the house. So she got in about the time that he was at the front porch. As soon as she slammed the door and locked it, he turned away and trekked back into the glum trailer park. Kelsey called her husband, whom then came rushing home and then called the cops. The man she described was never found. She even mentioned him getting a haircut or trimming his beard, but no one in the trailer park matched any of her descriptions. Hopefully it won't happen again, but we're all keeping our fingers crossed that he's too scared to show his face again. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night, and I'll see you next time.